What's going on, guys? Scouts311 here, and this is a board game playthrough of the game Mage Knight, which I have recently got and have been completely addicted to. This game is it's just an awesome game, and so I'm going to do a little playthrough of it and show off how it works for those of you who like that kind of stuff. So let's get going. I set up the game. It's a 1 to 4 player game, which one reason why I love it is it's a fantastic game to play solo. It's really good. 2 players is fun. It's a long game though, so you have to remember going into this. It's a long game. 2-player game could take 4 hours. You know, it's a long game because each turn takes a while. You're trying to figure out your moves. You multiply that with every player added in, it just starts to get pretty crazy. But as a solo game, it's a lot faster, and it's still a lot of fun, even though 2-player is still very enjoyable. I haven't done more than 2-player, though. So here's the box, Mage Knight Board Game. And here is the setup, which I already did. Setting up the game, once you know what you're doing, takes probably a good 10 minutes or so. But I did most of that already. So here's all the components. I'll quickly show it off. This is your fame and reputation tracks. Fame is basically how you level up. Every time you get a new line, you get a new level all the way down. These are the tokens we're going to use for the enemies. Those are orcs, rampaging orcs. That's for the wizard towers, dragons, usually city type of guys, keeps, dungeon stuff, and ruins. There's 3 decks up here, 4 actually. This is the wound deck, which you take when you get wounded. Usually you fan out 3 cards from some of these, but we're doing the scenario which they suggest you do when you start, or you teach new players how to play. And that kind of slowly brings in the stuff, so we'll bring these out when needed. This is the advanced action deck. Let's see what that is. This is the spell deck, and this is the artifacts. Artifacts are basically very strong items that you can use in your game once you get them. You have to usually get them as rewards for something you've done. Down here we have a day and night track. The day and night board. The game is played throughout a series of rounds, and each new round it goes from daytime to nighttime. And things like movement change during the day and the night. Some other important things happen. I just knocked over the die, which I'm going to have to remember to pick up later before my dogs eat them. Okay. And then these dies are Manna Dies, they're called. And this is how you generate mana for doing certain actions on your cards that you get. You take the amount of players plus 2. So I'm playing single player, so 1 plus 2 dice. That's how you determine how many you get to use in the game. There's extra dice over here that could be used for other things, and or if there's more players. And these are the unit cards which we get to use. I haven't put them out yet because I wanted to just show everything off. These are the silver units, which are used in the first half or 3/4 of the game maybe, and then once you get to a certain spot in the game, the elite units are coming out much stronger, much better. These are the tiles that we use. This is a tile game, kind of like Legend of Drizzt or Castle Ravenloft. Those are the ones I've played like that, where when you get to an edge, you reveal new tiles to see what's coming up. So we have that. The way the first game works is each tile has a specific way it's placed and a number. So this is tile number 1, and so on. There's 11 of these green tiles, which are countryside tiles, they're called. For the first scenario that we're doing, which is the teaching one, you actually put these down in numerical order up to 8. So you kind of know what's coming. The book actually describes each new thing that comes into the game in order based on these tiles. So what you do is usually you would take as many as you need, shuffle them up, and it's random. You don't know what's coming, but for this you kind of know what's coming. Over here we have city core tiles. There's 4 with actual cities on them. There's a blue, green, red, and white city. And then there's 4 that don't have cities, that just have other things on them. Usually pretty tough areas. These come out after the greens. They're always on the bottom of the green. So this, when you start to get to the city, these brown tiles, you know you're getting toward the end a little bit of the tiles. And once one of these comes out, that's when the elite units start coming out. So when you start to get to the really hard stuff, the better units come out to help you. For the first scenario, you get only one actual city tile. So we randomly, we kind of just shuffle these up, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Randomly pick one, put it off to the side, and then the rest can go back in the box. And the city core tiles, non-city ones, you get 2. So just throw these around a little bit, like whatever. Not that big of a deal. So we get 2, so we'll grab that one, and we'll grab this one. Put those over there. So then we mix these up. I'm recording this on my iPhone, and I'm holding it with one hand, so I'm going to do the best I can. I apologize for quality and all that kind of stuff. I don't have no fancy-dancy cameras or ways to hold up my stuff. So let's get a good little mix here. So we have that done. So we basically take these, put them here, put the green tiles on top, like so. And then we put these off to the side over here, and that's what we draw when we get to new tiles. So there's going to be 8 greens before we get to the city tiles. Remember, there's 1 city tile, 2 non-city browns, and those are shuffled in. So the first brown could be the city, it could be the last one, or so you never really know that end. So that is how all that kind of works. We can draw our units now, because I got the cities out of the way. They were just in the way. So the way you draw the units is similar to the dice, the number of players plus 2. So we draw from silver. So you basically lay them out, and these are units that can be recruited throughout the game to help you. So here's just an example. This is the Utem crossbowmen. And what these guys have is this top one is how much it costs to recruit them. So it costs 6 influence to recruit this unit. That's the unit's level. It's a level 2 unit. I think it only goes up to level 2 for these silver ones. So that's a decent unit. I don't know why this is not wanting to focus. Okay. These symbols here means where you can recruit them. So this unit can be recruited in a keep. This is a keep symbol, and that is a village symbol. When you first start the game, at least one unit has to have a village symbol, or else you just redo the units, because that's really where you would start getting units. This is the unit's armor when it comes to fighting, how much it can negate the enemy's attacks. And these are what they can do. They can attack, so this guy can attack or block for 3, or you can use them as a ranged attack of 2. So that's them. We have the Utem swordsmen, who have all the similar stats, another level 2. This guy can only be gotten in a keep, though. And he can attack or block for 3 as well, or he can attack or block for 6, but then he becomes wounded. You put a wound card on him, and he can't be used again until you heal him. And then we also have herbalists, who can be recruited in a monastery, that's what this symbol is, or the village. These are only level 1 guys, that's why they're a little cheaper, they only cost 3. Only have 2 armor, but they can heal if you use green mana for 2. They can ready a level 1 or 2 unit, which is nice, because when you use any of the unit's abilities, you put a token on them, you can't use them again until the next round. We'll get into that as it happens. But these guys can allow you to ready a unit quickly, for the next turn or whatever, so that you can use them right away again. Or if you can get a green mana token from these guys. And if you do any of these 3 things, you put a token on them, and then it can't be used until you refresh them. Same with these guys. So you can either do 1 or 2 here. You have a few options here. Sometimes, like this guy, you need to pay the mana to use it. What else do we got going here? These cards, which are fantastic, and they're just such a great idea. This game has a lot of great ideas. Every tile, there's going to be tiles that come up with certain things. These cards, it basically explain how the game's played. Very easy, you can find them. There's ancient ruins, it tells you what happens when you reveal them, what happens if you want to conquer them. Just everything you need to know is right here. This is to read about the city, the mage tower, the keeps, they're all here. It's also a card here to help you with movement in the game and all that kind of stuff. So everything's in these cards. And then these two cards are the tactic cards. These are for nighttime and for daytime. So for the daytime, you get to take a tactic. If you play with 2 players, you decide who goes first. Actually, it's the player who, whoever picks his actual character last gets to go first on here. You go through these cards and you pick one. Whoever gets the lowest number of the 2 gets to go first that turn officially. So the lower numbers usually have abilities on them that aren't as great, or you can go for a higher card, meaning you won't be the first one to go, but usually those abilities are a little bit stronger for you. In a single player game, it's done a little differently. In a 2-player, 3-player game, these cards get reused every turn, every time it's daytime. In a solo game, once these cards get picked, they get discarded, you can't use them again. So you got to think a little bit more about those. What else? Okay, our characters. So we're going to play as Norowas right here. He looks like he's like an elven type of guy. I didn't really like this guy. The first time I played the game, I played with him, and I got my butt kicked, and I didn't like him, but I realized it's not him, it's that I just sucked at the time, and I probably still do suck, but I don't care, it's fun. So I'm going to give him another go. So every character has a card. They have their deed deck, which I've shuffled up already, 16 cards. Every character has 15 of the same cards, and then 1 additional card for that actual character. So he's going to have a card in here that none of the other Mage Knight characters have. There's 4 in the game. That kind of dictates him as being special. These are skill tokens, which also dictates him as being special, gives him abilities that other characters don't have. When you level up, you get to take the top 2 of these, and you can flip them over, and you can decide what you want to keep of those 2. And then when you don't keep, goes in the common pile, and other players could actually use your skills when they level up if your skills are in the common pile, the ones you don't take, which is pretty cool. And this card here signifies what these skills do, because the tokens, basically, they don't tell you what they do, they give you these symbols, which you can kind of, once you play the game enough, you can kind of look at and have an idea what it means, but they actually have, each character has their own card, which gives the skill name, what it does, that kind of stuff. Now when you play a solo game, it tells you to take out the one skill that's grayed out here, a little bit more darker than the other, because this skill is basically used when you play with other players, either a way to attack other players or to help other players. It's used with more real, other real players. So in the solo game, it's not really going to be worth anything, so you take it out of the game. So I've already done that. These are shield tokens, which are used to dictate things you've done on the map and keep track of stuff. What we need to do with these, though, in the beginning, is we put 1 on the reputation track here, which means we're at 0 reputation. And this is useful for recruiting units and stuff. And we put 1 up here at level 0 on the fame track. And this is how we keep track of our levels and our experience points. The other thing that I didn't mention is in the spell deck, there's 20 cards in this deck for spells. The 17 through 20 you take out during the solo play too, because 17, 18, 19, and 20 are also spells that are usually used against other real players in PvP or something like that. And since we're playing solo, those cards would be kind of useless to us, so we also take those last 4 spell cards out before we shuffle it up, which I've already done as well. So that's the setup for Mage Knight. Oh, no, it's not. When you play solo, you set up what they call a dummy deck. And what this thing does is it allows, after you play your turn, the dummy deck goes, and they draw so many cards. It's as though there's a player playing with you, kind of. But what it mostly is a timer. So you can just, if you just played with no dummy deck, you can take your sweet time and go through. What happens here is every round you draw 3 cards out of here for the dummy deck. You discard 3 cards. You look at the actual character, Tovak, who is one of my favorite characters I played with so far. and you look at what they have, he has 2 blue and a red mana down here. It's a little hard to see, but he has 2 blues and a red. So we take the mana crystals that we use in the game to keep track of your mana. We take 2 blues and a red and put them on his card, like so. So what happens with this guy is once we discard 3 cards on his turn, if the third card is either blue or red, we flip over additional cards based on how much mana he has. So if the third card is red, he actually flips up 1 more card. And if that third card is going to be blue, he flips up 2 more cards. And what that does is speeds up his deck. So every once in a while, he's going to go through his deck faster. And once his deck is done, he has no more cards left. He declares end of turn, which means I'll only really have 1 turn left. So there's a chance his deck can get through really fast, and you got to base your pace of your game off of him. Basically, like I said, it's a timer. And he has skills as well, and when you level up, you take one of his skills and you put it in the common level up pile, so the next time you level up, you can actually take one of his skills instead of one of your own if you like it better. So we have that going. Here's our actual character. There's 4 Mage Knights. They're painted figures. You know, they're not the greatest painted figures, but they look pretty cool. They're cool enough. And that's the setup of Mage Knight. The other thing we're going to do before we stop this video, because this is just setup video and it's taking a while, is start the game by flipping over. There are special rules though. Here's the book. There's a lot of scenarios in this game. If we look at it, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 scenarios. So there's a lot of different ways to play the game. It's pretty cool. And then there's 2 instruction books too. There's the rule book, and then that book over there is the game walkthrough, which basically walks you through this first game if you haven't played it before. This has a nice summary on the back of what you can do, and gives you ideas of what happens with all these, what the different tokens and different icons mean in the game. But if we look at the scenario for first reconnaissance, it says there's a solo variant. You play 3 rounds, 2 days and 1 night. But if you play it solo here, it actually says that you change the game length to 4 rounds, 2 days and 2 nights. If you played it with any more than solo, it's actually a 3-round game. Our first mission, we are sent to an unknown part of the kingdom, and your task is to locate the capital. That's all. All the fame, knowledge, and treasure you manage to get are yours to keep. So once we find the city, which is the capital, the game just ends. That's the goal of this game. We have to find the city basically before we die. And here's the map set up. It's a map-shaped wedge that comes into play later. You can have the map form different ways. Countryside tiles 8 for a 2-player game. Correct. City tiles 1, non-city 2. Cities cannot be conquered or entered in this scenario. Usually you might have to destroy a city or conquer it. So the special rules is what you really want to look at. A player scores 1 fame whenever he reveals a new tile. So anytime a new tile gets flipped over, because we got to an edge and flipped it over, we get 1 experience point, basically, or fame point. That normally doesn't happen, but it happens in this one. No player versus player combat allowed unless you agree otherwise. Gold units are not used in this scenario. Actually, I forgot that they're not used, so we won't be taking any of these gold guys, which kind of sucks, because the gold guys are strong. They're really cool. But that's alright. And you should not reveal spells and action cards until they are needed, which we haven't done. Usually we reveal some. We're going to wait. And when a player reveals a city, all players, including him, have 1 last turn. If the round ends during that, the game ends immediately. Scoring doesn't really matter that much. And it tells us, like I said, 4 instead of 3 rounds, and to use a dummy player to play along with, as basically as a clock to speed it up. So what we're going to do now... Oh, there's one more thing I didn't do. This token is used for units. At this moment, we can only recruit 1 unit. We have 1 token. We put him under it, and when we use him, we put that token on top of him to show that he's been used that round. And we can't use him again until we refresh him. And then the other thing is we have these tokens, which are done in numerical order 1 through 10, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, or 3 to 4, 5 to 6, 7 to 8, and 9 to 10. These are basically our level. So every couple levels we get to flip this over to the new one. What this shows is that at this moment we are level 1 to 2. We have 2 armor. If we get attacked, we can block 2 of the damage, and we get 5 cards in our hand. Now we could end up with more than 5, but if we have more than 5, we don't draw that next turn. You can only draw up to 5 cards. Sometimes a card will allow you to draw more cards through the turn. You might end your turn with 6 cards for some reason. Then you just wouldn't draw the next turn until you get less than 5. So what we're going to do, and then we're going to end this video, I keep saying that, but we are, is this is the start tile. There's an A side, like that. There's A, and then there's the B side. Depending on what kind of wedge you're going to make, is what type of tile you start with. The A tile is a little skinnier. That's the one that you use for this first one. See, there's a coastline. The B tile is fatter, used for more wide open games for more players. So the way that you set these is you always have the letter down, or everything has to be kind of put in a specific way. I'll show that now. So you draw 2 tiles to start. So the first tile, which is going to be number 1, because that's the way the scenario is done, it has to be number 1, and you see it right there. So the way these tiles go is that number 1 has to be facing kind of the same direction as A, and the other way to help you with that is that there's other marks on here. So there's a star here that you kind of form if it's placed correctly, and there's a circle here too that gets formed if it's placed correctly. So when you place a tile down, it does go in a specific way. So we draw the second tile, which is going to be number 2. So we find number 2, which is right here. And we place this tile down, and when we do that, you'll see that that star is formed. I mean, it's not like a perfect star, but it just lets you know that you've done it correctly. That's a formed star, and there's another circle down here. So these tiles have been done. What we need to do now, I'm like really anal about having these together, but it's kind of hard to do with one hand and then film with another, is take a look at these tiles and see what's on them. So first thing you usually do is you look for these swords. Those are rampaging orcs. So for each sword, you take a green token. You flip it over, it shows what the enemy is. So that's a digger, I believe they're called. You put that face up on the token. The rampaging enemies, you actually get to know what they are. Sometimes you don't know what this is going to be. Sometimes these things are flipped down, other type of enemies, and when you get next to them, they flip up or something. And the other guy is a hag, I think. And this one has poison, and these things are done in specific ways. I'll explain those more when we get into a fight, or when we need to know that. So that goes on the other side, on the other sword. The other things we have on here that we see is a village, which is used to recruit units and heal. A magical glade, which can be used to heal as well, or to get mana before when you start your turn. If you end your if you're on that on your next turn, when you start a turn, you get mana. There's another glade, another village, and then there's a mine here with a green mana. If you end your turn on a mine, you get to take green mana and put it in your inventory, and you can use it at a later time. So that's what that is. So that's kind of the setup here for this game. So they introduced the mine, the villages, orcs, and the glades. And as I said, all these icons have a card related to it. So you can see the crystal mine card here. If you end your turn on a mine, gain 1 mana crystal of the color that the mine produces to your inventory. And the magical glades get healing essence. If you end your turn on a magical glade, throw away 1 wound card from your hand or discard pile. It's not the same as healing, and the effect cannot be combined with other healing effects. And then you get imbued with magic. If you start your turn on a magical glade during the day, you gain a gold mana token. If you start it during the night, you gain a black one. So that's what that is all about too. Okay, so now I'm going to end. This is the setup of the game with explanation. Took a while, but we're all ready to go here for our Mage Knight game. So in the next video, we'll start actually playing. God, it took a long time. I wanted to really play on this first video, but I just wanted to explain what everything was. Yeah, so anyway, sorry about that. We'll get there in the next one. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you in the next one.